Good evening, everyone. We like to start, on time. This is one of the characteristics of this particular lecture series. So it's 1900, and at the outset, let me welcome all of you on behalf of the India Habitat Center and the Society for Policy Studies for this particular lecture series. President Trump came to the White House with certain promises. And one of them was he said that he is going to walk out of the TPP because he felt it was a bad deal. A lot of us, I remember going public at that time, writing, saying that it's very unlikely that he'll do it, there's too much at stake, etc. And bingo, the next thing you know, there was a tweet, we are out of TPP. Similarly on Iran, we presumed that there was too much at stake in terms of global and regional strategic stability and that the Obama-led Iran deal would remain intact. But again, that was something that President Trump took a decision. Now, this is only one aspect, but at the same time, there are people who are trying to read between the tea leaves, and there are supporters of President Trump's turbulence and what he has done, the way he has literally, shooken up the global system. A recent issue of The Economist, for instance, has a fairly positive assessment of the long-term impact of President Trump on the global system. So it's not as binary as, is being made out to be. And we couldn't have a better person than Ms. Suhasini Haidar to walk us through this particular, shall we say, aspect of more recent global developments. And as I said, she is currently with the Hindu. Prior to that, she was here in IBN. I was about to read 2 pages of a very rich CV. But Suhasini just told me that please don't do that, embarrass me. So I said, fine, I won't embarrass it, but I'll put it up on the website. So along with the text of her lecture, very soon, both her CV and the text will be up on both the websites, the Habitat and the SPS. And on that note, let me thank all of you once again. And my last request, we are trying very hard to sort of, build this gravitas to the public lecture. So she'll speak for about 40-45 minutes. My request to you is, please do not leave unless it's a dire emergency till the talk is over. A public lecture needs, as I said, a certain audience participation. And we'll have the first shuffle closer to 8 o'clock. I know some of you have dinner commitments. And then we'll continue with the QA. I hope that's acceptable to all of you. On that note, Ms. Haidar, may I, ma'am, request you, please.
In the past, the sense has really been that regardless of a change in US administration, policy continuity is more or less maintained. We were always told it really doesn't matter at the end, you have the people in the Department of Defense and the State Department that will run things. On policies like the treatment of allies like NATO, trade policies, honoring deals made by previous administrations, it is normally in that transition period of a government in the US that ensures that a singular vision prevails. It explains, simple things like why Obama didn't eventually shut down Guantanamo, or Bush continued Clinton's economic policies, or why securing the liberal international order, these are words that are used constantly since the 1940s, remained a US objective since the war. And the furtherance of what is known as Pax Americana really was that objective. The last 2 years have, however, made us reconsider this particular precept. Mr. Trump has, in fact, turned the precept on its head, beginning with his transition period where, as we know, very few people really knew what was happening and no handover seemed very possible. Pax Americana, and certainly the desire for a liberal international rules-based order, is no longer a given objective. There may be a little lip service to it, but I see that term actually no longer meaning what it used to. I want to clarify here that the meaning of the Trump effect is not some personalized vilification of the US president, as I said. I will use the word Trump effect a lot. I will name Mr. Trump a lot. What I really mean is what is now being seen quite seriously by scholars as the study of a set of new policies in the United States that have been brought to bear by the Trump administration, i.e. since January 2017. If you go, for example, to the Reuters website or you go to the Nikkei Asian Review, you will actually find whole sections dedicated to tracking the Trump effect. And essentially what they're doing is tracking the effect on domestic and international and trade policies. So this is a subject Now, a new subject, we have students over here, you may soon have courses in the subject as well. So if you think I'm being overly dramatic, I'm going to paint the landscape for you and count the ways in which the US has unilaterally changed the landscape, because this makes a difference. You know, there are a lot of changes that happen in countries' foreign policies which are dictated by the outside world. There are others that are completely unilaterally done. To begin with, this is something we are all aware of, and you spoke about the Twitter handle. On his Twitter handle, in public commentary, Mr. Trump has had open public fights with many, if not most, of the US's closest allies. We're not even getting into North Korea and whose button is bigger than the other. But NATO, Canada, Australia, he has told Japan and South Korea to pay their share more, impose tariffs on allies and neighbors alike. His administration has reversed immigration policies entirely, whether they are for refugees, immigrants, illegal immigrants, H-1B visa holders, and their spouses, as we know here in India. Then there have been the walkouts that Commodore Uday Bhaskar spoke about from international agreements and regimes. In the past 2 years, and let me count the ways, the US has exited from UNESCO and from the UN Human Rights Council, from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and has threatened to walk out of the World Trade Organization as well. It has walked out of 2 key international multilateral agreements, the JCPOA with Iran on nuclear issues and the Paris Climate Change Agreement. In fact, on the environment, studies showed that the Trump administration has changed as many as 70 laws internally in the United States, which is the largest chunk out of roughly 200 laws that have been changed through executive orders and legislative actions in the first year of his administration.